NCAA time. I got a P5 specifically for that. Shout out to my brother. Anyways, 10 quick tips about recruiting or recruits, but we're not going to dive into these things too much in this video. We have red shirts, gym or bus system, not like the old years now. Now, speed you can no longer see, but maybe acceleration can help you out. Coach abilities. Now, mind reader and recruiting are going to be very, very key for certain things. NIL is not actually in the game, but it's in the game. We are allowed to, well, we'll get to that some other time. Superstars will leave for the NFL. Listen to me. Listen to me. If you have a superstar player and he's Heisman or he's balling out, he's gone. Now, there's new abilities. EA made Madden. They have been testing things for a long time without us actually knowing and bringing the actual, hopefully, close to perfect version to NCAA. Now, listen, stick switch. Ooh, man, listen, real users have been wanting this for so long. No more of the same over and over. No, not happening. Now, wear and tear. Wear and tear can be very, 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 very key for recruits, for me, in my opinion. And I'll tell you this much. The height, the weight, it could factor in, especially in the scheme or style of offense that you use or defense. So make sure you're aware of that. For the dev traits, if you got a star, they can't play it and ball out and then become the next level of the dev traits. They're going to remain that dev trait for their entire career. So make sure you're aware of that as well. For the last thing, this is going to be a bonus. Pay attention to your opponent's recruits. So if you and I are in the same Dynasty League for a rivalry game, week 10, right? And you see that I have 3 recruits coming in and you don't have no recruits coming in, that should motivate you even more on top of already wanting to win the game, because now if you make him not get the dub, now he is probably not going to be able to get those players, and especially if you were going after one of those players, it's going to help you out a lot, my personal opinion. Now let's get to the main video. In Dynasty, recruiting is the most important thing, and it's basically, you know, why we've missed it for an entire decade. So you have discovery, pitch, and close. I'm not going to cover these too much on reading everything, but I just want to highlight a few things, but then give you my personal opinion on hopefully some things that other people have not covered yet. For recruiting begins with discovery. So discovery is figuring out what the player's attributes are. I would like to figure out what players I want to target, and then when I target those certain players, I'm now just going to invest a minimum just to see where we're at. And I want to see what that deal breaker is. Because if I notice that deal breaker at the bottom right, and I'm going to show you guys a screen of that later, is not matching up, then I can save myself a lot of time and not waste time. And then I can see if certain interest for that certain player that I'm trying to recruit does not match well with my team that I'm currently a head coach of. Guess what? It's more than likely not going to pan out. So make sure you guys pay attention to that. For the pitch, that's when you get to top 5 schools. After you get to the top 5 schools, kind of just get to know the player a little bit. This is after social medias and whatnot. And then you go to the close, and then obviously this is just where you close the pitch out. You try to make sure that you get the recruit, and if you don't get the recruit, then you just don't get the recruit. My school, this could be one of the most important things for my school grades. They range from a D- to an A+, 14 different categories. Let me point out championship contender just for example. Now how this actually works, let's go down to the screenshot really quickly. If you look over here, Stanford is an A+ for academic prestige. But if we go over one, Stanford is now a C- for championship contender. Is something that we're about to go over for one of the 14 different categories. That's very, very key to me if you're going to do a rebuild, especially for recruiting. Now, you don't have to be a really good team to have a championship contender. All that means is your previous years. Have you went to the bowl game? Have you had championship contenders? So go through the team's history. Oh, okay, cool. You can kind of know before you go into the season or before you get the game. I know exactly what I think I want to do. When you factor in those things, they're a 75th at a C-. So that's not very high. Duke, Louisiana. I said Louisville. Louisiana, Eastern Michigan, Utah State, Rutgers, they're all above Stanford. Now you can get Army and only be 4 lower and still compete with Stanford when it comes to championship contender. For me personally, I think that's pretty close to a wash. The one thing to me is academic prestige. This is going to be very key. You can kind of build a team simply off of this. I think you could take Stanford, Yale, or Harvard and create a really, really good team, especially after 2 to 3 seasons. I think the team could be stacked all around because they don't really lack in much, honestly. Now, the main one that I want to point out to you guys is brand exposure. Brand exposure is very, very, very key to me. When we go over those screenshots that we just did, the one thing that I see a lot is brand exposure popping up at the bottom right on deal breaker. So now when we go over these screenshots, make sure you guys notice that, and I'll mention it a few different times. Academic prestige, we just seen and went over that a little bit with Stanford. I gave you guys a few other references for schools that would have a good academic prestige. Conference prestige just means the overall strength of the conference, and then how well you've fared against, the competition. Coach prestige and coach stability. These are two different things that are key for recruiting, but really not for this video, because I would rather main focus on a couple different things for recruiting and hopefully give you guys a couple of different things that is new and help you guys out some. Athletic facilities. This could actually be something that helps. I don't know what the DM system looks like because I've seen that we can message players. So I wonder if that will actually benefit in certain ways, but I'm not too sure. Proximity to home, that's going to be very, very, very key. Make sure you guys are tapped in with that. Brand exposure, once again. Campus lifestyle. I feel like this is going to be mainly for the messages. I feel like this is how the vibe's going to be. And hopefully when you bring in recruits, the visit, that helps the visit go good, especially with winning the game. Stadium atmosphere. I'm torn in between. I don't think that this is going to matter too much, especially for recruiting, but we'll see. Pro potential. This is just talking about a player and if he's, that elite level guy or not. We'll get to that later on. So we can go over this really quick. Don't bring in the same position. Don't bring in 2 centers. Don't bring in 2 wide receivers for a visit. Don't tell a running back, hey, you can start this upcoming year if guess what, he's not going to be able to start because you already got a starting player right there and he's only a freshman. So you're just going to hurt yourself in the back end, and then they're going to go to the transfer portal on you. Probably going to be hard to get somebody in the transfer portal, especially if you're trying to do a rebuild season. So good luck with that. They touch base with championship contender here for how it actually works for their breakdown. But finally, there's brand exposure. Once again, a key thing in my opinion, I think, to landing some key recruits and transfers. So when you're getting players coming out of the portal, this is also going to be key. This is something else that's nice. Championship contender. Now, just because you're lacking in that category and you're 72 overall, which it shows here, these 4 guys, my bad, are at this risk factor. Now, how long does it looks like the risk factor is not going up much, so maybe it takes a full season for them to want to transfer. Maybe it takes 2 full seasons. Maybe it's a couple of games if it starts to look bad. I don't know. Program tradition, B+, so that looks good. Team prestige, 3-star. You get to see a couple details there, and then you kind of get to see where a couple of other schools are located at. And Houston, FAU, Appalachian State are all going to be really good teams for rebuilds as well. Recruits and where they come from. What this is basically saying is there's 3,500 total recruits that we can actually choose from, and I think on the first one it said 4,000, so they cut 500, which I like. So hopefully they fine-tuned a little bit more things and made it less players, and I think that they're actually getting this right. This just is saying if Florida is known for having fast players, you're more than likely going to be able to pick up some speed in Florida, just in general. Texas, okay, Alabama, you might be able to get somebody a little bit bigger. Georgia, okay, might be able to get somebody a little bit bigger. Go out to California a little bit, Oregon, Washington a little bit area, might be able to find a little bit of speed, maybe with a little bit of size. Is basically what that's saying. So whatever their heritage is for known and whatever they're known for, guess what? You might be able to find you a gem hidden in that pipeline. As we go down, what a recruit cares about. Now there's the 14 different traits that we've already mentioned, and I'm not going to go back over them. But here, once again, a 5-star prospect is going to care more about getting to the next level, winning championships and growing their brand with NIL opportunities than a 2-star will. If you have a 2-star guy, is he going to be a 4-star to 5-star guy by the time he's leaving the school? No. Could he possibly be playing like a 3-star guy to 3.5? You might get there. But a 5-star or a 4-star player is going to want that NIL deal. They're going to want that opportunity for their brand and how to grow. They're going to want championships for championship contenders. So there's that with brand exposure. and then they want to get to the next level. So academics is there, but it may not be a huge need. Make sure you guys are paying attention to that. I'm kind of noticing a couple of little, text notes with NIL included or brand exposure in a few different moments that I feel like it's really key. Every recruit has 3 different phases. So with these 3 different motivations, so it's 3 different phase opportunities or pitch opportunities that you can have with the player. Just go with your gut every time. You're more than likely going to be right. I don't think that this is going to be too difficult. Just go with it every time. Now, deal breaker is it's a few different things, but I don't want to go over it too much because I don't think that we're going to end up having a lot of deal breakers unless we're just being knucklehead head coaches and trying to recruit 5-star running backs every year. Like, it's not going to work unless you're running what Georgia Tech runs, and then you still may not. It's just not going to work, especially on this system. Probably, I'm pretty sure they probably checked all of that, so I doubt that you're going to be able to even do it for wide receivers. I don't think you're going to be able to get 5-star wide receivers even with a 5-out offense or a 4-out offense in college, so which can hold more wide receivers. Recruiting pipeline, once again, this is just going over. Make sure you go through the historical data for that recruiting area, what high schools and what high school areas this state's known for, what basically. Okay, now where are they known from? Now how many came from there? And you can kind of just do a quick little bit of math and then figure out, okay, all these guys are here, I want to focus here. Or you can just wait until the 18th and play the game. One last thing about pipeline is a school's pipeline level will never change. That's cool, I like that, but it makes it a little tough. Can't kind of sneak in certain areas. I wonder how that's gonna work, especially if you change where the college team is at and move them to completely different, like move someone from the Big Ten to the SEC. How's that going to work out? This just goes over saying, for example, as Rice, you will often see that the recruits who are interested in your school are also interested in Vanderbilt, Northwestern, and Stanford. Just going down the history pipeline as well, but also going along with them having high academic prestige. But this is why I say if you target the 3 different things out of the 14, then you have a high chance of being able to possibly wiggle into pipelines that you're not supposed to wiggle into. Hopefully that can happen, but based off everything that they're saying, that's not going to happen. Let's go down here and look at one of these screenshots real quick. If you see here, Tavita and Antoine, just Antoine, have committed to Washington State and Fresno State over Oregon. Now, Washington State, I can kind of see, but Fresno State, that's tough. And then you can see how Alex committed to Oregon. Don't think that you can't do a rebuild. They're showing us right here, right now, like a rebuild is possible. And you see Oregon competing here with USC, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida State University. Good competition, and they took a player from them. I'm pretty sure you can compete. For the recruiting here on the next screenshot, we have 1,000 hours. Now, hours is basically just, they're trying to get realistic, so make sure you act realistic when you play the game, especially just as a head coach. Play how you want to play for fun for sure, and head coach for fun for sure, but make sure you try to, use your noodle just a little bit. You have 35 possible targets, and you have 35 opportunities to try to get the player that you want. It's going to be tough, especially when you're in a league full of a bunch of good guys that enjoy fantasy or dynasty football, and maybe even fantasy football, but they just love a game and I've missed it for a decade, so it's gonna be tough. But as for Prince G, you can see he's a 5-star recruit, 6'2", 244, out of New Jersey. Is gonna have some talent. And then I guess the last thing that I'd highlight is just a red need right here. No need right here. Basically saying don't go after that athlete. But he's an athlete. He's 4 stars. Could you use an athlete? Position changes, available now. I don't know if we're going to be able to do like the Travis Hunter style and be a 2-way player. I wonder how they could ever get that into the game and like make it realistic with being super tired and stuff. That'd be kind of cool to see too. Here you can see on roster sign. Now you can see at the quarterback position, everyone that's at your quarterback position. You can see their overalls, year. This is going to be so time management and help so much with time. Now people that really don't got time, guess what? You got time now to play some Dynasty. So this game's about to go crazy. This is gonna be a good game. Now recruiting hours, we've already went over that, but you have up to 1,000 hours. Now there's also a coach badge that we spoke about in the intro of the video that can help you with recruiting, so make sure you guys tap into that. Now the recruiting board, you are capable of doing 35 players. This is just gonna break down to you how the filters work and how you move around, but the just overall the display and how much you get to see and how fast you're gonna be able to actually play the game now. NCAA is a so much faster paced game than what Madden is, just gameplay wise. This is gonna help the feel of the game so much. This is gonna feel really nice. Now the pitch, soft shell, both are 5-star, or 5 and 4. Hard shell is going to be the way to go, and that is how you can get your player to flip really quick, and then next thing you know, scholarship offers ready, and bang, you can get a guy. Prince G here. As we can see, the competition looks very stacked. Texas A&M would be the only, and Wisconsin, I guess, would be the only like creep-in teams compared to everyone else. I think you're going to be able to get in, but once again, at the bottom right, brand exposure. Make sure you notice that. There's a few key things to Frank Mahoney that we kind of got to pay attention to here. Now, at the top, the hours, we got 600 hours and 31 targets. I don't think none of this is kind of like back-to-back, because 600 hours, then it goes to 690, so you use 10, which it says, and then you scout again, which says scout 10, so it's 100%, and it's 580 from 600. There's no way it only takes 20 hours to scout this much information, because if this is going to be the case, Frank Mahoney is actually going to be a key part in how I play Dynasty this year. For that minimal amount of hours, I can figure out so much information. The dev trait doesn't matter to me at that point. I would enjoy to know the dev trait here, but I can do 2 weeks of this and figure out majority of who I would even go after. Then I can filter down out of that with my schooling, with my school and everything that's involved with the 14 different categories, and see what matches up. See what guys, okay, for sure. Okay, I think I can get these 5-6 guys for sure. Maybe it's a 5-star guy, maybe it's a 4-star guy, and you're competing with other teams now in colleges that you shouldn't be competing with. If this is showing correctly, that could be very helpful and very useful. Now, attributes and abilities are able to be scouted. So when we go back up here and look at the screenshot, no abilities. And it's like, why would you do that? Because I get to learn so much just from the attributes in general. I know the abilities can be a huge factor for sure, but I'm going to learn so much off of the abilities, off of the attributes, that I can base some of the abilities after a while of what range we're going to be at. And then every once in a while, you take a shot in the dark at somebody and hope that it wins. National Signing Day is now in the game, which it has been in the game, but somebody can leave right before National Signing Day, so make sure you watch out for that. If it's a verbal commit, make sure you stay in contact. Don't cross your fingers on it. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it. It's a lot of time wasted. That's a lot. For the gym or bus system, I'm pretty sure everyone probably knows about this already. With this being said, try to go after them 4-star guys. Try to go after them 3-star guys, especially if they have that possibility at a gym, because now guess what? You can have a 4 or a 5-star. Not wasting hours and losing out on signings because I'm going after guys I really shouldn't even be going after, and wasting hours after the first 20 hours. I'm probably not going to win my Dynasty if I'm online or playing, a private one online with a bunch of people. Make sure you guys notice that for the gym or bust, the 4-star and the 3-star. Right there it goes. Screenshot it real quick before I move my screen. Finding the ideal pitch. This could get tricky, but I wonder how this actually breaks down. The 5 recruiting actions are as followed: offer scholarship, search social media, DM the player, contact friends and family, send the house. Overall, I'm going to assume DM the player could be key, but I wonder if you DM him at a certain time of night, like your actual time, or in the game, or what. I don't know how that's going to work. So let's say it's your actual time. Is that going to affect anything? Or is it just like the day? How does that actually work? Because I feel like if I hit him up on a weekend, he might be doing something and not really want to talk. But if I hit him on a weekday, it's a school day, so he probably going to think about it all week and then carry over to the weekend. Now, searching social media, that's just basic 1s and 2s. Contact friends and family, that's basic, but we actually get to dive into it this year, which is going to be phenomenal. And then send the house. From the recruiting coordinator to every other coach on your staff, you're just trying to influence the player as much as possible to come play for your university. Now, here's 2 screenshots of what it looks like. Search social media, DM the player, contact friends and family, send the house. Soft shell, hard shell. Go with hard shell every time. If you think you're like an 80% higher of like being right, go with the hard shell. Trust me, it's going to be worth it and save you so much time on players. Soft shell is good if you're trying to get a player that you're not probably supposed to be getting. And then if you find yourself in the wiggle room, any opportunity you have to hard shell, you have to. But I wonder if you soft shell, can you not hard shell? And if you hard shell, can you not go back to soft shell? So can you change it up each week that you put hours into the player? Once you pick one or select one, does it stay that for the remainder of the recruiting process with that actual player? I didn't see that specified, so that's the one thing that I am questioning. Now you can see here, this is what it looks like all highlighted. 50 points for send the house, 25 for contact friends and family, 10 for DM the player, and 5 for search social media. Stage 2, pitch. After the recruits narrowed to the top 5 schools. So this is going to be the top 5 schools. This is how they explained soft shell and hard shell. So for the soft shell, the downside risk and penalty isn't that bad. But when you go for the hard shell, the downside risk of penalty is a lot worse than what it's going to be for the soft shell. After selecting a pitch, you're going to have 20 pitches in total to be able to collect and motivate through. So make sure you guys are aware of that and locking in on my school grades from the very, very beginning of everything that you do, especially when you start your dynasty. This is a pretty good screenshot that they have. Now you see how this red one is something that he's not interested in at all. There's not question mark, nothing's question mark, so you know what he's interested in and not. He's only interested in 3 things: athletic facilities, brand exposure, and pro potential. Pretty self-explanatory. Nothing else is interested. But for this red one, it's a C. For this red one, it's a C. And for this red one, it's a C+ grade. Everything else is basically a B or an A+. So you can compete with 2 or 3 or 4 proper choices when going into really crafting your rebuild system on the proper school for what you want to do. And I think every school has a good way to actually go about it, and it's just you got to lock in on what you're supposed to be able to lock in on for that college, and I think you're going to be able to get really good players, especially by year 2. Stage 3, close. This is going to be very important, but also not very important. It just depends upon if you're really going to try or really not try, and just think about it a little bit. So when you're closing your pitch and you're trying to get that actual recruit to come sign with you, scheduling and activity is going to be very key. So don't bring in the same guys that are at the same position. It's just really not a good move. Unless you have maybe 10 wide receiver spots and they know that you need to for sure or something like that. And even then it's kind of risky. But I would like to get a quarterback with a left tackle. I would like to get a center with a running back, or a middle linebacker with a running back, or a safety with a running back, or a DB and a safety. Or I would like to get a defensive tackle and a defensive end. I like to get 2 guys in the trenches. So just make sure you go about it the right way and don't try to hurt yourself on the back end and force uncomfortable situations that you wouldn't even want to go in on your own, because I think that the game is going to be more realistic and more reality driven than what any football game has ever been. It's probably going to be worth a decade wait for sure. Here's a quick glimpse of scheduling the game on week 12 versus week 14, which is against Auburn. Doesn't really do much here for the win, and you kind of lose some on the loss. Next one, you lose twice as much on the loss, but you at least get a win here. So you would rather schedule a really key one, or maybe a 5-star guy that you're on the cusp of getting and that you probably shouldn't even be competing for. Maybe you are just competing for and you should be there. Maybe you just risk it all and go for that, but you got to win that game. Make sure you win that game, because all them hours are going to be wasted. Or schedule everything accordingly and do everything as close as you can to right throughout the season, and you might be all right. Once we go to the next one, you can see his stuff is still questionable, but he's already almost in the top 5. So just make sure you're trying to recruit in the proper way. And then once you get down to the end, sometimes you just end up getting a guy to sign with you. So hopefully that's kind of how it looks too. Maybe you don't get too much information and you're kind of blind a little bit on 0% scouting, but he still gets a 4-star recruit, and you can back in to get a guy at 33. You know, this is your 33rd guy, your 23rd signing. So it's like, okay, I kind of risked everything on one guy that I was just hoping to be able to get, and I still got him. So it still has that factor in recruiting, which I do like. Hopefully you guys did notice that. If not, you did now. The next slide is, hey, coach, we're talking about leaving transfer portal. We've already spoke about this. I feel everyone understands what a deal breaker is, and everyone understands what the transfer portal is. So the next slide for recruiting, deal breaker at the bottom right, once again, championship contender and brand exposure are 2 that I am noticing that are going to be pretty key to having, especially for a rebuild team, I think. Now, once we get to the signing day, this is cool because signing day is actually realistic, And the key thing about this is when you have a verbal commit and when it becomes the signing day opportunity, they can't change their mind on signing day. So if they was verbally committed to you, they're actually just going to stay actually committed to you. They're not going to hit you with a random surprise one. Based off of everything that I've read. And that's one of the really cool things about signing day, but I wish they'd kind of give you that, watch thrill factor too, maybe. But, oh man, come on, bro, what? And just anything. Maybe they add that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I read it wrong. That's everything that I took from signing day. That's going to be a little bit different and actually add a little bit more effect to NCAA this year. So walk-ons are going to be available when they just don't get picked up by a team. Guess what? They can still possibly walk on, and if you were recruiting them, they got a chance to actually pull up on you. So that's nice. In previous tense, it would be kind of like, dang, I recruited a guy, he didn't go nowhere, and I looked like, why didn't I get him on my team? Well, it just was random in 14. Now it's not going to be as random, which is nice. Position changes, man, oh man. Ooh-wee. It's going to tell you the overall, it's going to tell you all the attributes, it's going to literally tell you everything. That's going to be tough. But the one thing is the abilities of the actual player himself. It's not going to change unless it has to for that position. Then you're going to get something different. Other than that, the position change, you kind of got to make sure you probably do a wide receiver with a DB or a DB with a wide receiver, maybe a DB with a safety or a safety with an outside sub linebacker. You get the point. I know you guys want to see the developmental traits. So we have normal, impact, star, and elite. Other people have probably drilled it, so I'm just going to say this much. If you already see it on the guy, it's not going to get no better like Madden, and it's not going to go down like Madden. It's going to stay what it is. So make sure you know that going in when you pick up recruits or pick people up out of the portal. As you guys can see here, when the player's in college, and I wonder how this is going to look for a high school recruit. But here's the badges that you're going to be able to see on the player. Now, this is a really good college quarterback. So we're being able to see that there's gold and silver on him everywhere. He doesn't have the platinum and he doesn't have no bronze. But he has all silver or one silver and all gold. So here's a look at what they look like. And they took from 2K17 for sure, but I think it was for the better, and hopefully 2K improves off of it as well. That's going to wrap up the recruiting process on my side. Hopefully I touch base on a few different things. Hopefully you got a different insight on a few different things, and you guys can come watch me play in a Dynasty League with my brother and all of his friends and stuff, and I'm going to be spanking on them. I want to take Oregon for the jerseys. They're just too good, and I want to rebuild, so I'm thinking ECU or New Mexico. I don't know. Y'all let me know. And I hate long outros too, so subscribe to the Juice and Pop Show. Subscribe to the Juice and Pop Show.